Just about every system or application we work with has some concept of account management. We have records that we authenticate against that identify us and then consequently allow us to access certain systems. Now, this may be account management which is manually built into the application, or it may be account management of a nature that allows all the employees in the company to log on every day. Account management is something that is available now as a service. In Microsoft's case, it's Azure Active Directory. So think about the Active Directory that you traditionally have on-premise, with those server administrators looking after it, as we just saw in the previous clip. And now imagine that you could put that in the cloud, and it simply became a commoditized service. You paid for as much as you used, you increased the scale when you needed, and someone else looked after it for you. They'll charge you. That's the very nature of cloud. That's the measured service. But it starts to move something which really can be commoditized into a service away from the organization's responsibility and offers it as a service. Now, as you can see here, there are a bunch of really neat things that you can do with a service like Azure Active Directory. So for example, enforcing multi-factor authentication. And not only that, but you can integrate it with your on-premises Active Directory as well. So this goes to the earlier point of how our cloud-based security solutions may actually be a bit of a hybrid. It's not an all or nothing sort of situation. But let's have a little bit more of a think about just how valuable account management as a service can be. Let's have a look at everything that you would have to do with your account management if you're running it yourself. First of all, keep in mind that account management can take many different shapes. We just saw Active Directory, but consider what account management looks like when it's actually built into the software that an organization is running. So for example, if they're building an application that requires registration, do you really need to write all of that yourself? And yes, modern web frameworks can make this a lot easier, but you're still going to be responsible for it unless you're able to outsource that into an account management as a service sort of model. Beyond registrations, things like password storage. This is not necessarily an easy thing, and certainly it comes with some pretty serious risks as well. We very often see data breaches that result in individuals' usernames and passwords being disclosed publicly. So managing passwords, no matter how well the storage is done, is actually a significant responsibility. Think about some of the other things that you need to build into an application in order to do account management. For example, password resets. We need to make sure that people can reset their password if they forget it. But how do we make sure they do that securely? Do we need to build the whole thing, or can we use account management as a service? Same for password change. So someone's already authenticated, they decide to change their password. There's got to be a process of verification, then of course cryptographically storing it in an appropriate way, and possibly other account logistics like tracking when it was changed, making sure you're not reusing previous passwords. There are a lot more logistics behind most of these boxes than what immediately meets the eye. Brute force protection is another one. We know that account management facilities are often the target of brute force attacks, because attackers are trying to figure out what are the credentials of the individual or individuals that they're testing. So they want to break into your account management. Do you have brute force protection built into that? Or is that something that can be delegated to a provider of account management as a service? And finally, as I touched on earlier, multi-step verification. This is becoming a really critical part of account management because we know how prevalent it is for people to reuse their credentials or choose bad passwords or put them on a sticky note on their PC or some other form of practice which puts the account at risk. Now, it's not necessarily hard to build multi-step verification into an application, but when there's a turnkey solution that does all of these things together, and it's simply part of account management as a service, then that can make a lot of sense. This is a cloud computing security strength, because you can go to a provider like Microsoft and get this out of the box, implemented in a very strong, secure, proven fashion. and not only save a lot of effort in building it yourself, but also be able to have confidence in the effectiveness of how it's been built. So that's account management as a service. Let's go and look at something a little bit different now. Let's go and look at VNets on demand.